We are back inside episode 5 of the Sports Lodge. Lots to talk about today. It's a busy week, this three-week schedule, John, but I'm starting to really enjoy it here as we hit our groove. And let's start with Thursday Night Football and the Baker Mayfield show. He comes out, and after Tyrod Taylor looks really terrible in the first quarter, John, and mostly through that entire first half, Mayfield comes in, runs a 2-minute drill, gets some points on the board. The hype starts to build at halftime. You could feel it, right? They're talking about it in the pregame, the panels are talking about it. Twitter's of all a buzz. Everybody's freaking out, and boom, the second half, Mayfield goes off. John, you're freaking out on Twitter after the game. I know you called the score. How do you feel? What were you thinking? What was going through your mind?
Well, you want to talk about the hype train leaving the station, man. I was trying to get Browns Nation hyped up before the game. It's been so bad in Cleveland for football fans. I just want to see him get that W. So I gave him the score, 21-17 Brownies, and that is exactly what happened. I was laughing so hard on my couch when that was the final score. I had to go on Twitter and flex a little bit for everybody about how smart I am about this sort of shit. The Brownies did good, but I got to give it to Joe Buck. Joe Buck, I believe that was who was calling the game last night. He called it. He's just like, the clock is ticking on Tyrod Taylor. Not in this season, in this game. And that was before he left. That was
you could see it, right? Like, he was hurt. He wasn't running the same. He wasn't throwing the ball the same. Like, it wasn't the same Tyrod Taylor that has really looked good the first 2 weeks. He was tentative and hurt, and obviously he was battling an injury.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with Tyrod, but I'll tell you right now, the era of Tyrod Taylor is over in Cleveland after what Baker did last night.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the head coach. Hugh
Jackson.
Is it Hugh?
Yeah,
Hugh Jackson.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackson. He came out and he's like, I got to review the tape.
Well, that's coach speak, right?
Like, you have to say that, but, like, come on, man.
No,
like,
he doesn't. He doesn't have to say it. But he's a guy who went 0-16 last year. Did you see the shots of Hugh Jackson on the sideline? Every time they go to him, he's just standing there. He's not even talking. I love that. Like, he's just it's ridiculous. I don't know. I think we can both agree Hugh Jackson, not the best head coach in the NFL, but I really had issues with the New York Jets and their coaching staff yesterday. And post-game, coach came out and said he put it all on him, but their play calling stunk. All of a sudden, they're up 14-0. They were really good running the ball. They were having a lot of success against the Cleveland Browns and just being able to move the ball up and down the field. They weren't forcing Darnold into tough situations. And all of a sudden, that just stopped, and they found themselves in third and longs. It felt like every drive, and they're just punting the ball back. And when Mayfield's going down and scoring on basically every drive. And you know what, John? The thing, I was watching Baker Mayfield, he looked like a quarterback, right? Like, he didn't look like the moment was too big for him. He came in, he was calm, right? And that's what I think impressed me the most about Mayfield last night, was just how he looked. Sam Darnold, I didn't think he played terrible. That pick at the end was absolutely brutal. You just can't make that throw at the very end of the game.
Both of them, man.
Right? And, like, it was coming off a play where I thought the Browns probably should have called a timeout to look at that fourth down call, because I'm not sure that was a catch on fourth down, but we'll never know. Last thing from the game that I wanted to mention was the Isaiah Correll TD celebration in the first quarter, wiping his ass with the football a la Randy Moss. Any thoughts on that, Mr. Lodge?
I mean, you're allowed to celebrate in football so long as it's not offensive, and I guess using the football as toilet paper is not deemed as offensive.
He got flagged.
Oh, he did get flagged?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, he got flagged
I was in and out after the celebrations.
Flagged. Yeah.
So, yeah, well deserved then, I guess. The flag, well deserved. I normally don't stay around for the TD celebrations. I'm in and out, grabbing a beer, doing something else. I'm so busy. And with the Jays game last night, there was a lot to keep up on. We'll get into that later.
Get into the Jays game for sure.
But I mean, celebrations are celebrations. You take it too far, though, and you're going to get flagged, and then you end up hurting your team. Getting on that running game, though, like, Isaiah Crowell was having a great game for the Jets, and like you said, they just stopped using him. 2 touchdowns, and then they were only able to score 3 points by using Darnold's arm and only Darnold. Like, it's almost like, oh, your rookie quarterback's out there. We're going to try and have our rookie quarterback run the game as well. And it just I don't know. I know that's not what they did, but that's what it felt like to me. So I don't know. The Jets need to use their running backs more. These young quarterbacks, they need a strong running back to take the pressure off of them, take the pressure off the pocket so they can have some time.
Yeah, Carlos Hyde did that exactly last night for Baker Mayfield, right? They were able to run for first downs. They were able to keep him in short yard situations. And when he needed to make a throw, he did. And despite Jarvis Landry doing everything he can to drop a couple balls and take a couple bad penalties, they fought through it. And I feel good for the city of Cleveland, John. I don't feel bad for Jets fans. I don't like Jets fans. Jets fans suck. I'm glad the Jets lost to the Browns. I truly am. 1-1-1 for the Cleveland Browns. They're ahead of the Steelers. They're got a real shot here. You never know. You just never know. And the Bud Light containers went out. Good for the city of Cleveland. And
I got one more
thing
thing
to say. I think they're going to keep partying. Absolutely, buddy.
I think we need to go back on the next episode of the Sports Lodge on Riot, a couple episodes just before we did our NFL preview.
Yeah.
Because I know we both answered the question, who would the Browns get their first win on? And I think we both picked the Jets.
We might have. Yeah.
I think we both did. I think we need to go back and take a look at that. And if that's the case, we'll play a clip of that.
We'll check the tape for sure. All right. Speaking of the Sports Lodge on Riot Radio, which we were on yesterday, it's up on the Twitter, it's up on Facebook, it's up everywhere you can find us. We were talking about the Max Domi suspension or supplemental to be suspension at the time. Well, you know what, John? You were tooting your horn earlier about what you got the score on the Jets game right. I was right about this one, and I like being right. I said they're probably just going to give him the rest of the preseason because whatever, they have to suspend him for it, even though I still believe that Aaron Ekblad should probably keep his head up a little bit more and know who you're scrumming with, especially when you're 6'4", 230. But he gets the rest of the preseason. How do you feel about it? Do you got any complaints? Do you think it should have been more from the NHL, John?
I would have rather them see, like I said, we talked about it on Riot, and spoiler alert, I was a fan of suspending him regular season games. You weren't, and it was because it broke a precedent. The only way you could do that, obviously, we talked about it, is the David Clarkson way when it's an automatic suspension. So, yeah, you got to give him I feel you gave him the max games, but it almost feels like a vacation, right? Because ain't nobody want to play preseason games, so he's just going to get to sit at home while the rest of his team gets ready to go. And I honestly, and I said this to you on Riot as well, I feel, and Roberto Luongo said that they're not going to forget this, and they're not going after a second-line winger playing center. They're going to go after the top player on the Montreal Canadiens, and the top player on the Montreal Canadiens is Carey Price.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for George Peros and player safety because as much as they want to take non-hockey plays out of the game, I don't think they want to take scrums and fighting out of the game, right? And I know that's a very fine line, and it's weird to even say things like, but that's kind of the line hockey's riding here, because they want to remain a physical sport, but they also want to take out the unnecessary headshots. If they were trying to send a message, I think they would have given regular season games, but I think this almost shows how they obviously viewed it as an infraction, but I think in the regular season this might have been a one-game suspension. Most likely it would have been a fine, right? Or a warning to Domi, and then if it happens again, you'll give him the suspension. But more than anything, John, it's not that, because he's not going to get miss anything cash monetary-wise. You don't get paid for preseason. He's going to miss getting some chemistry with his teammates, which is important for him. But I think the biggest thing for Domi here is it just puts another suspension on his record. That's 2 suspensions for him now. You get a 3rd suspension in the span of 18 months. They're just going to keep adding on and building to it. So now Max Domi's on watch for the rest of the season. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the last name will put him on watch anyway, right? Because everyone's going to pay attention to that last name, no matter what he does. And I agree with you. It would have been a 1-game suspension or a fine in the regular season, and that is what it is. The reason why I wanted regular season games is because the preseason doesn't matter at all, right? Because you don't get paid for the preseason. In my opinion, getting suspended for preseason games, it is a vacation. It's not a punishment. So anyway, I don't want to hammer this point too much. Domi got suspended for the rest of the preseason, and he'll be back for game number 1 against the Toronto Maple Leafs season opener. It should be a good one.
Yeah, it's just 2 weeks away. It's crazy. Speaking of season openers coming soon, the Raptors are getting ready for camp.
Actually, you know what?
What do you want to do?
You know what? I'm sorry, I forgot. I have to bring this up because I've got to give a shout out. Yesterday on the Sports Lodge, I was mad about the jerseys.
Yeah.
And in less than 24 hours, I am getting my jersey replaced with a triple XL.
Oh boy, so they were on it?
Yeah, they were on it. Needless to say, one of my family members, who is awesome, was watching the podcast and made a phone call, and everything's good to go, and I'm going to get a jersey that fits.
Beautiful. Attaboy, Johnny. And if anybody wants to send me a jersey, I'm just saying.
There you go.
I'm a big guy. Give me the triple XL too, I guess. If I got to squeeze into things, I like free swag. You know who's not buying a jersey, John? Here, I'll try another segue. You know who's not buying a Toronto jersey anytime soon? DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan has really just hating life, right? I don't know. He doesn't seem to get over things, DeMar. DeMar seems to hang on to grudges, and it just... So, who knows what's going on, but DeMar DeRozan decides yesterday he's going to tweet out, "Revenge is a dish best served cold, ... Okay, what does that mean, DeMar? I'm not quite sure, but he means something by it. There's all these theories he's talking about the Raptors. He probably is, because I guess there could be something else in DeMar DeRozan's life that we don't know about it, but he's back in town here on January 3rd, and I guess we'll see."
So the full story behind this, I don't know if you've read the article, but he was on Serge Ibaka's cooking show.
Is that the entire story, though?
Hold on, I'm getting there.
All right.
He was on Serge Ibaka's cooking show, and Serge actually asked him the question about the Raptors, and he looked at Serge and he said, "I'm going to foul you out, I'm going to foul JV out, and I'm going to put up 50. And then he tweeted, "Revenge is a dish best served cold." So he used the little food pun because he was on a cooking show. And then, so if you watch the show, he totally called it...
food pun?
I guess.
All right.
He did that up, and he vows to put 50 up on the Raptors on January 3rd. So fantasy owners, if you got DeMar DeRozan, make sure he's in your starting lineup on January 3rd, because this guy's going to go off. I'm happy still with the trade. Don't get me wrong. You'll never get me to say I don't want that trade to ever happen, but we've seen when a basketball player gets a little bit of a fire lit under him, especially someone who has the talent DeMar does, they can put up big totals, especially if they're not locked down defensively.
Yeah, but we've also seen DeMar DeRozan in big games. DeMar DeRozan isn't a big game player. He's not good in the playoffs. He never will be, never has been, and wouldn't shock me at all if he comes to Toronto and gets shut down by Kawhi Leonard in a big game. Because you know what DeMar DeRozan hasn't done ever in his career is win. So shut up, DeMar. Moving on. Positives in Toronto, one of the craziest comebacks. Like, we haven't talked baseball at all. I had no idea the Jays were even on a winning streak until yesterday. But all of a sudden, my Twitter blows up last night. Thursday Night Football's in full swing. It's the Baker Mayfield show. And I have to tune over to the Jays game quick because Justin Smoke hit a walk-off home run to complete one of the greatest comebacks in Jays history. They were down, 6 runs heading into the bottom?
7
runs?
No, 6. They scored 7. My apologies.
Yeah, so they were down 6 runs heading into the bottom of the 9th, and John Gibbons' postgame said it all, Johnny. I don't know what happened.
Like, you had Jansen go off for a 3-run homer, Gurriel come up with a solo shot, and then right after you had Smokey come up and just mash the ball to walk it off, and the smiles on all of their faces. I mean, the season is over, but you could tell how tough a year it's been when something like that happens, and the guys just can't wipe that shit-eating grin off their face because they handed it to a team that's been handing it to them for a decade plus, the Tampa Bay Rays. For some reason, the Jays always have trouble against these guys, and they were able to handle them last night in the bottom of the 9th. And typical Blue Jays fashion, because the Blue Jays have never been a small ball team. They've always been a team that, when good, they mash the ball and they mash it hard. So it was nice to see. But but it really doesn't mean anything, right?
No, it was just,
The
it's a good moment, right? It's a moment that these guys will remember from the season, and it'll be a footnote on what has been a terrible year for the Toronto Blue Jays and really for the entire operation. But so I got nothing more to add to that. Great, that'll be the highlight of John Gibbons' September. They're 9 days away from the season ending. I assume they're going to be done on October 1st, and that'll be the end of baseball.
So that wasn't the only thing that happened last night. We had talked about the banner falling off the truck for the Red Sox yesterday.
Yeah, I did want to mention
they got that back, and they get to put it up now, Joey. They clinched the AL East last night in a slugfest, man. Like, this was what was the final? Like 11-6, I think it was.
Something crazy like that.
I had it up here, and I've lost it, but. Yeah, just a crazy night for the Red Sox. They were losing. It was 11-6. They were losing to the Yanks. Gary Sanchez had been hitting, and then Mookie Betts comes up, gets a homer. Mookie Betts in my fantasy had a 40-point night.
In baseball? Jeez.
Yeah, in baseball. Yeah, he had like 5 RBIs or more.
Baseball. Of course, it'd be in baseball, but
so
that's crazy.
Just a great night for the Red Sox, and this team is. It's funny, though, because people are like, it's not always the best team going in that'll be the favorite in the playoffs, because baseball's weird like that, right?
Yeah.
Anything can happen. Any team could win a game any given day and change the momentum. So people are looking at this playoffs like it could be a big shock coming to the Red Sox system if they got to face a New York Yankees squad. And, I mean, they've owned the Yankees this year, but the playoffs are a different story, right?
Yeah, 104-49 on the year is not a bad record at all, but the Red Sox don't have a starting pitcher who's won a playoff game. So you have to deal with that. And
not as a starter.
So a starting pitcher who's won a playoff game? Okay, a starting pitcher who's not won a playoff game as a starter. But either way, it doesn't bode well for the Red Sox, and only time will tell. I think the way they can slug the ball, they're always going to be inside ball games here, but you never know. If Chris Sale and David Price go out and shit the bed once again in playoff starts, then it'll be a bye-bye quickly for the Boston Red Sox. Moving on to okay. So there were champagne celebrations in Boston. Let's talk about more liquor. Because Conor McGregor, man, this guy's the fucking best. I love Conor McGregor. That was a terrible transition. Don't even worry about it. We're moving on. This guy comes out swinging at all cylinders. He just can't help himself. I could not wait to watch this press conference. Brings out his own whiskey, has the belts. The guy just doesn't shut up. And he signed a new 8-fight deal with the UFC to top it all off. So we're going to get more and more of McGregor. John, this fight's going to be great. These press conferences are continually going to be wild. Is there anything that Conor McGregor could do that would surprise you anymore?
No, not really. I mean, other than after the bus attack, there's nothing he can do that can really surprise me. This guy, he's a moneymaker. He's an ATM for the UFC, and his mouth just spits out like $100 bills every time he opens it. Right? He just keeps making money for people. He's got that whiskey, and I mean, the way he talked to Khabib was just awesome. It's exactly how I felt Conor should talk to him. You talk about him bringing the belts out, Joey. He's not even the champion. He just owns those as trophies.
I know, it's awesome.
So he literally just brought them to be like, you got 1, I got 2.
I'm the real champ. Yeah, that's because he didn't lose, right? They just stripped him of the belts.
Yeah, they stripped him of both of them.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And on top of everything, his whiskey is going to be on the canvas.
Yeah, right. That's part of the deal.
They're sponsoring the fight, so he's making money on money, on money, on money, on money, and just the way he talked to Khabib was fantastic. A reporter asked him, Conor McGregor will blank Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's like, stomp on his fucking head. Like, oh my God. I can't wait. I can't wait for October 6th. I know exactly where I'm going to be. I'm going to be at my local bar with a beer in my hand, watching that entire card.
Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a fight. I can't wait to see more press conferences. He's so much fun to watch, and I don't know, John. It was like Chael Sonnen started this whole thing with the UFC at really being a smack talker, and Brock Lesnar brought it a little bit, but Conor McGregor's the first guy who he can just talk your ear off and he'll beat the shit out of you, and it's the fucking best. I love watching it. It's going to be so much fun, and I just can't wait to see it, really. I hope these guys beat the living crap out of each other so we get 3 more of these fights. Friday, September 21st, first day of fall. I'm rocking the beanie, and it's football season, full swing, Johnny. The Jets lost to the Browns last night, so we're going to start a new thing with this Friday schedule. Figure it's a good way to bust it out, especially on the heels of you coming away with a perfect score on Thursday Night Football. So I'm not going to get you for scores, but every week I'm going to ask you three random games. I'm just looking for a winner, and we'll look at it on Tuesday and see how you did, all right? All right.
Sure, let's go.
Game 1, Bengals-Panthers.
Cam, a little bit roughed up. Cincinnati is kind of on a little bit of a burner, winning 2-0, and I think they might be the real deal this year, Joey. I'm taking the Bengals in this one. It's going to be a close one. It's going to be high scoring.
It's in Carolina. I should mention that as well.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at it here on NFL.com.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still taking Cincy. I think AJ Green and the Red Rocket, as weird as a name that is, have maybe figured this thing out, and let's see if they can get something going here.
I don't want to argue that one too much. 1 o'clock game, very top of the schedule. It's a tough one. Saints have struggled early the first 2 weeks, but come away with a 1-1 record versus the Falcons, who've had their struggles a little bit so far this year, John, but looked like they figured it out last week. Who you picking?
Normally I don't go with the away team so much, but Atlanta struggles normally on the regular, and as much as New Orleans has struggled periodically through seasons in the past years, they seem to be a little bit more cohesive of a unit and they're able to get out of a slump more than I feel the Falcons are. I'm going to say that was a one-off by the Falcons last week, and we're going to have a win by Drew Brees and the Saints. You're going to see a huge performance out of Alvin Kamara. They're going to have to get those guys back into the running game. Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara are going to have to do it. And then Drew Brees taking the pressure off of the pocket.
Johnny taking the upset. I like it a lot, sir. All right, your final game of the week, and this one, a battle of a quarterback who used to be good versus a quarterback who we haven't seen the best from this year. The Giants at the Texans, John. Eli Manning and company have really struggled so far this year, and so have the Texans, coming off a really disappointing loss to Tennessee in Week 2 after losing to the Patriots in Foxborough Week 1. 1 o'clock game on Fox. Who you picking?
Had to give me 2 0-2 teams, eh?
Yeah, this is a tough one. 2 real good wide receivers, 2 quarterbacks who are wild cards, running backs who I like on both sides, and defenses that are supposed to be better this year. And 2 teams that don't play each other a lot.
Yeah, just looking at it here, I think this game is going to be a game that's decided by the defense. And unfortunately for the Giants, they don't have one. So as much as I like Saquon Barkley, like you said, Eli Manning is old and he's kind of crusty and he's not really that good anymore. I'm going with the Texans in this one. Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, they all get out of this hole together, along with a big performance this week by Lamar Miller. He's going to have to get, I think 80 yards this week is Lamar Miller's mark. I don't think he'll get to 100, but I think he'll get 80 rushing yards, maybe a TD. And then, Deshaun Watson, Fuller, and Hopkins will take over.
Yeah, that's certainly the MO for Lamar Miller, part of my fantasy squad, and he's been okay. And that's really what the Texans do, is they ride him. They try and get that running game going. It's a real staple of the offense down there. We will have to see. That's a tough game. That was a tough one to get you to call.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Because I didn't move or anything.
That was the only time it went fuzzy. The whole time.
Right? Okay. All right, and every week I'm going to do a lock of the week too. This one, Johnny, it's fairly easy. I'm picking the Vikings as they host the Bills here in Week 3. It's going to be another long week for Bills Mafia as Kirk Cousins and the Vikings are they're going to prove to be way too much once again. And as much as I like Josh Rosen and I actually like the coach up there, I just don't think that Bills Mafia is going to have much of a chance this year as they find their way down to a top 3 spot in the draft coming up next year. That's all I have written down. Do you have anything else you wanted to add this week on episode 5 of the Sports Lodge Pod, Johnny Lodge?
No, not at all, actually. I just want to thank everybody for watching, and follow, subscribe, and make sure you watch us on Riot Radio, because you get this half of us. It's a little bit uncensored, but the other half, it's a little bit more professional, so come take a listen.
Yeah, it's a little more produced, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, professional's the wrong word.
It's not just all the time. Yeah, I did have one thing I wanted to mention, though, quickly. Tiger Woods coming out on fire yesterday. T1 with Ricky Fowler shooting a -5 at the Players' Championship. Tiger's back, baby. I can't wait to watch it. He deserves to be there. We have the Ryder Cup coming up soon. It's a good time for golf. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be watching Tiger again this weekend. See if I can get a little bit of golf in on Sundays. Like Johnny said, rate, subscribe, like the Facebook page. Give us a follow. Feel free to leave questions. Everything else, we're going to get an intro and an extra worked on for you guys. Hopefully by next week I can get that done, and it's going to be a fun year. And when we come back on Tuesday's show, we'll recap all of Sunday's NFL action, talk about some of the NHL preseason action, and we will also look ahead to the postseason in Major League Baseball. For John Lodge, I am Joey Chapman. Thanks so much for listening into the Sports Lodge. We will talk to you next week.